Now, since I'm occasionally called out by mainstream church leaders and Christian laymen for saying some uncomfortable things, such as I just said, that Jesus is not only love, I'd like to quote someone of note who at least sees him more or less similarly. Ben Witherington III, in his commentary on Matthew, says this: most people reading this commentary would like to have had a user-friendly Jesus, an approachable Jesus, a Jesus who is threatening and who warns of coming judgment and hell does not produce warm feelings. Those of us who love Jesus need to do our best to avoid the tendency to whittle down or lop off the hard edges of his teaching. If there are parts of his teaching that makes us uncomfortable, perhaps we should allow that to tell us something about where we are, what we believe, rather than saying Jesus could never have said something like that. The human tendency to minimize what we find disturbing or painful or hard to swallow needs not to be given free rein when it comes to Jesus' teachings. Jesus must be allowed to have his say, whether we're happy with his words or not. As with Yeshua, just as he wasn't bashing the Hebrew faith, but he was bashing the Jewish leadership for the wrong teaching, it's my intent not to church bash, but rather to shake up things among these church leaders, to rethink these many doctrines that they teach, which often does not say something quite different than what the Word of God says. You know, it's the job of Bible teachers and pastors and messianic rabbis to teach the biblical truth, not to teach denominational doctrines. It's our job to lead people into the kingdom on God's terms, not on ours, or those stated terms of denominational councils. It is our job to be willing to bear the anger and the rejection of others, even of our fellow brethren, because what we teach and do isn't always going to meet their expectations. Frankly, it's not always going to make your lives more comfortable. On the other hand, it's not our job to be people pleasers. We're supposed to be God pleasers. Yeshua was willing to displease the Jewish faith leadership and most of his fellow Jews in order to reform the Jewish faith back into what God had given to Moses on Mount Sinai. This bold teaching of truth, this was the catalyst that led him to the cross.